It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Bell, Biv, and DeVoe. Are they all still with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hoping for a reunion tour soon.
They are in spirit.
Maybe they're in Wendover. I don't know.
Hey, the three of us should do like a – because, Win Ticket Wednesday, by the way, is going to be a ticket giveaway for a band that covers one of the great bands of all time. I'll tell you about that in a little while. But we could be a Bell, Biv, DeVoe cover band. Look at this. He's got a three
of us.
I'll be Bell, obviously. I nominate Alex Napolis for Biv. And then you can be DeVoe.
Thanks for
not
that.
Not to be pronounced Devo.
Well, which of the Bell Biv DeVoes was the most famous?
No idea.
Because I bet nobody could name their names.
I love how you have an opinion. You're looking at it.
I have to, because I wouldn't be able to tell you.
What are their names?
Ronnie DeVoe, Michael Bivens, and Ricky Bell. Ricky Bell was the lead vocalist, so he would be the lead. That would be you.
I've got the pipes. I hate to admit it. Okay. This is the dumbest conversation we've ever had. I love it.
It is kind of dumb.
Bell Biv DeVoe. I just love that our producer, Alex Napolis, who was definitely not even born way before this song was released, is into it. So there you go.
These guys are like 60 years old now. That makes me feel old.
I know. It's bad. Let's jump into this part of the program. It's the cut. Top of the hour. Let's talk some hockey with Cole Bagley. Let's do it.
It's time to talk hockey with the Utah Mammoth and NHL insider on KSLSports.com. Cole Bagley on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Top of the hour, this 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by the good folks at Trajan Wealth, TRAJANwealth.com. Trajan Wealth for all your trusted local needs in retirement. And Cole Bagley appearing, brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union. Growing stronger together. I read both of the hat trick pieces that you guys put together after those two 4-1 losses over the weekend. I know that there's no such – I don't know. Human nature's funny. And how teams can act after you already know you clinched the playoffs. I know that this team isn't going out there and going halfway. I think this is more a function of how competitive the NHL is all the time. Even it doesn't matter what night it is or what game it is in the season or what team you're playing. Those guys want to beat the crap out of you, and I think that the Mammoth fell victim to that, Cole.
Yeah, they did for sure. Especially, looking at the schedule, the Carolina Hurricanes were never really a game that I circled as a win or a game that was going to go particularly well for the Mammoth. That's a team that could win the Stanley Cup this year. And even though they were missing a few players and a couple of their guys didn't play as many minutes, that's a really good team. And it's a team that just plays a style that Utah struggles to keep up with. They play with a lot of speed, but they play very disruptive hockey. They're a very physical team, and they just created havoc all over the ice, and Utah struggled to keep up. And then, I don't know that the schedule was overly helpful for the Mammoth as well. They lose to Carolina at Delta Center. They have to jump on a plane that night. They go to Calgary, and obviously the Flames are one of the worst teams in the NHL. But like you said, there's no nights off. There's no easy games.
And not at their place, certainly. When you look at how well they did at home, like, you can't take those guys for granted.
Yeah, exactly. And Calgary had nothing to lose. They had they could play any way, and it wouldn't have mattered. And it just, I think for Utah, a lot of fans are. It's funny. I feel like we've graduated. The fan base has graduated to really high expectations already. Hockey's only existed here for the NHL's only been here for 2 seasons, but I feel like we're dealing with, fans that have been around for a really long time because there is no room for error. They get really upset if this team loses a couple games in a row. A couple nights ago, it's, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. And, last night after loss, it's, fire the coaching staff. It's the worst thing in the world. But, I just think, for this team, they're still experiencing growing pains. Most of these guys have never played in the playoffs before. And if they have, it was just a handful of games. And yeah, you have your Ian Coles and your Sergachevs and your Nate Schmitz and what have you that have won cups and are experienced. But for the most part, a lot of these guys have never touched the playoffs and they're still growing. And, they're as Bill Armstrong said, their best team is not here yet. And so there's still going to be growing pains. There's still going to be times where, they have some inconsistencies. And, the biggest thing for Utah finishing out these last 2 games is to rediscover their identity and to be able to play Mammoth hockey and to get back to playing consistent hockey. Because if they do that, they're going to be a handful no matter who they draw in the first round. But if they don't and they play like they did the last 2 games, well, it could be a pretty quick series.
We could have panicked a couple weeks ago when they had that tough stretch and they had that weird game against the Capitals, and they turn around and they win 4 straight, and they clinch playoff berth. So we know this team's going to be able to forget the last 2 games pretty easily. But was there anything you saw out of these last 2 games that gives you concern moving forward, things that they need to improve on before they get into an intense playoff series?
Not really. I think it was just a combination of you played the best team in the East, you turned around and jumped on a plane and, went up to Canada and played a team that had nothing to lose. And, I think they had kind of exhausted themselves a little bit over the last, they won 5 straight and a lot of high emotions. And, for me, the losses just kind of came back to a lack of effort. They came out flat in both games and they struggled to really get going and struggled to get into their game. So, yeah, there's nothing overly worrisome. I think, if you wanted to point to one thing, it's probably that, the goaltending situation, Vejmelka's fine. I just don't know that it's been Vanacek has been a good fit. I would be surprised if they rely on him whatsoever. As soon as the playoff starts, I would anticipate that you're going to see Vejmelka every single night, especially, who knows how far Utah is going to go. So, it's not out of the ordinary to kind of play that way, but it's certainly unfortunate that they don't really trust their backup goaltender, and that's something that going beyond this season they're going to have to address stepping into the summer whenever that time comes. But yeah, overall, I don't think it's anything to really worry about. Utah. For Utah, it's about deciding to play their game. It's about having the maturity and the energy to be consistent. And, like I said before, I just don't think that they have that over these last 2.
Cole, one of the things that we've seen, obviously, with the fight in the Pacific, and we're trying to figure out what team Utah would end up facing, it looks like it would probably be Vegas. Does Vegas look like a team that can just turn it on immediately? I feel like any team could do that in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I look at it, JJ brought this up to me. According to Vegas, they have the 3rd best odds to win the Stanley Cup behind the Avs and the Hurricanes. And I thought, well, that seems like it's overshot. But going to the playoffs is something you can't replace, and that's a team who's been there quite a bit from the very get-go.
Yeah. Vegas is definitely one of those teams that's just kind of built for the playoffs. Their game translates over to the postseason incredibly well. So, if Utah is to draw them in the first round, they need to kind of expose their weaknesses. And I think a lot of that is defensively and net. Their goaltending has, struggled to remain consistent. It's been definitely a struggle for them in a lot of different areas. They haven't really found their groove. They've kind of bounced between the two, between Hill and Hard, and I don't really feel like either guy has really asserted himself as a number 1 starter. So, I think what's positive for Utah is, they're gonna be a problem no matter who they face, whether it's Vegas or Edmonton, Anaheim, Colorado. I don't think anybody really wants to play Utah because, Utah is so hungry, and they kind of have, I think, spoiler written all over them. I think they're a team that could go into the first round and could make noise against just about anybody. And I think, certainly against, Vegas or Anaheim, I think those are, if they face either of those teams, I think that's a series that Utah could potentially pull an upset and beat them. But it's going to, again, come down to Utah having maturity and consistency and deciding to play with those things. And I think the key, if they were to play Vegas, would be, in addition to, exploiting their weaknesses, would be, going down to Vegas and continuing to dominate. Because they've had a lot of success in that building. I think of the 3 wins against Vegas, or maybe 4, I believe that 2 or 3 of those have come, on the road. And most recently, they took care of business in, commanding fashion about a month ago when they played the Golden Knights down there. So, for Utah, yeah, Vegas can be a scary team. They have the experience, a lot of guys that have won Stanley Cups on that roster, some of the best players in the league. I mean, Jack Eichel is arguably the 2nd or 3rd best American player in the National Hockey League. Then you couple that with, Stone, and then you've got to worry about Marner and a handful of other guys. So, offensively, that's a team that can do some damage, but I think their weak spot is defensively and certainly between the pipes.
I know the analytics favor the Mammoth to hold on to this wild card 1 spot, but the way the last couple of games have gone, and with the Kings winning 4 straight, what's the margin for error here for Utah if they don't finish business here to slip and fall that 2nd spot?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they just need to take care of business. 93 kind of remains the magic number for them as of right now. If they can pick up a win and at least an overtime point out of their last 2 games, that would pretty much wrap it all up and help them secure the top wildcard spot. But the Pacific is just wild right now. I mean, there is a scenario where, maybe Anaheim continues to lose and LA jumps them, and then Utah's in a race, a closer race for that top wild card spot between, it could be Anaheim, it could be Edmonton, but luckily Utah has the tiebreakers in a lot of fashion. When you look at, regulation wins and then regulation wins plus overtime wins combined, I think Utah would have the tiebreaker over the Ducks. And then as of right now, they would have it over Edmonton. So, for Utah, there's no reason for them to not lock it up. Obviously, they slipped a little bit. They've let their guard down. They lost 2 in a row, but that's a team that, before they lost 2 in a row, they won 5 straight against some very, very good teams to lock up a playoff spot. So, again, it comes down. It feels like every night, you wonder which team you're going to get. Are you going to get the dangerous team that can beat anybody, that can play anybody, that plays with confidence? Or are you going to get the team that, maybe just doesn't have the energy, that lacks that confidence, that lacks that connection? And it's a decision. And, that's a conversation that, I've had with a lot of the guys, a lot of the veterans, the Ian Coles and the Nate Schmitz, and even head coach Andre Tourny. It's a lot of the times it's getting this young team, this inexperienced team, to decide, who they're going to be on a nightly basis. And, I would imagine that, they're hungry and they want to lock up that top wildcard spot, because if you don't, you drop to wildcard 2, you have to face the best team in the league in the Colorado Avalanche. Now, I don't hate that matchup necessarily, but if you can help yourself a little bit and you can face one of the more inferior teams, a team that's you're going to match up better against, and potentially move on to the 2nd round, obviously you're going to want to take those chances.
The young core that you mentioned, and we've talked about all year, their first go in the playoffs, and are the Stanley Cup playoffs the type of place that these young guys, this group in particular, who you followed so closely, do you feel like that this is a group that goes, we were built for this, or it's one where you go, you know what, get this year under your belt, and then you know what the Stanley Cup playoffs feel like, and then on to next year?
No, I think, based on a lot of the conversations that I've had with that young kind of core group, with the Logan Cooley's and Dylan Gunthers, and I would even, throw guys like Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. I mean, they're obviously a little bit older, but they're very inexperienced. Those are guys that have played very few playoff games. And, they all recognize that, hey, we achieved our goal of getting into the playoffs. That's what we said that we were going to do. We did that. Hooray. But they're hungry. That's not good enough for them. They don't want to just get in and lose in 5 or 6 games and go, well, good. That was great, guys. I guess we'll build on it from there. No, they want to go in and shock the world. Not necessarily win a Stanley Cup, but I think, if these guys were able to push, one of the top seeds to 6 or 7 games, or, potentially even win a series and move on to the second round, that's what they want. That's what they want to do. They're not afraid of anybody, and they know that they possess the skill in order to do that, right? I mean, Dylan Guenther scored 40 goals this season, and Clayton Keller's on pace for, I think, 87 points, which would be the second most in his career. And Nick Schmaltz is having a career season, and you go back to even some of the other younger guys. Logan Cooley has kind of started to break out and show that he's a legitimate potential future superstar. So for Utah, they appreciate that they achieved their goal, but this is just the beginning. There is so much more for them to accomplish, and why not now? Why not gather as much playoff experience as possible and make it hard on one of those higher seeds.
We here in Utah, we're just so excited about being in the NHL and being in the playoffs that we don't worry about some of these things that other fan bases grind their gears about. But I know that the playoff format is something that a lot of people around the league, a lot of fans around the league don't like. I'm curious to get your take on it. What is your opinion on the format? And have you heard anybody or anything talk about the potential of it getting changed back to the way it used to be?
I don't like it. I think there were some meetings between the general managers of the league and, of course, Bettman. I want to say maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, where they kind of, they were discussing things, right? I think this is an annual meeting that they have, and there were some GMs that had voiced their opinions on the playoff format, and they go, we worked so hard, all season long. We try to, dominate the divisions that we're in, but then, we get to the first round of the playoffs, and we're facing teams, and I believe that Bill Guerin is one of those general managers that has an issue with it, because, this is a guy that his team is I think the third or fourth best team in the entire National Hockey League. But they're in the Central Division, right? And so being in the Central Division means that in the first round, they have to face the Dallas Stars. And so you have two teams that are cup contenders. One of them is going to be out in the first round. And, Bettman's response to that is, well, there's no first round in professional sports like the Stanley Cup playoffs. We get the best matchups. We get these incredible teams facing off that make for really, really good games. But at the end of the day, wouldn't you rather have those matchups in, at a minimum, the second round or, the conference championship? Isn't that when you want these top tier teams beating each other out instead of the first round? And I get it. Those games are incredibly competitive, and yeah, they're exciting, but it just, I'd have to agree with those general managers that have an issue with it, because, for Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild, they went all in on, adding Quinn Hughes to their roster with the hopes of proving to him to come back. But if they lose in the first round, I don't know that he's necessarily going to come back. They obviously understood that. Wasn't a secret. It's not like somebody pulled a fast one on him and said, oh, well, guess what? You brought in Quinn Hughes, but you're going to have to face the Dallas Stars. No, they definitely knew that. But I agree. I think that the best matchup should be, second, third, and then, of course, the finals. Having two of the best teams in the league having a face-off in the first round, sure, it's fun, but I don't really think it's fair, because what value is there in dominating your division? What value is there in playing incredibly well if you have to face another really, really good team to start things off?
Cole Bagley, our Mammoth insider for KSLSports.com, always hooking you up with the best info on this team in this market. Cole, lastly, this will be Bear's first go on the bench as the head coach in a playoff series. What does Bear bring to the playoffs that are going to what are some of his qualities that are going to be something that helps him be a winner in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think there's a continued hunger. An ability to continue to grow. I mean, that's what he's done year over year since he took this thing over when they decided to move on from their previous coach and hit reset. I mean, he's been there all along the way, and every single season they've improved in terms of their points making progress. And obviously, he's done exactly what the front office wanted him to do. Now, it hasn't necessarily been the prettiest. there's been ups and downs, and I'm certain that there were times over the last 2 seasons where that seat's started to heat up a little bit. But he's just as hungry as the rest of these guys, and I think the team responds well to that. I think they feed off of him a little bit, and he has incredibly high expectations, which I think is good, right? You don't want to go into this playoff debut for this franchise and just be there. That's not good enough. That's not what's going to result in winning a Stanley Cup hopefully in 4, 5, 6 years down the road. But going in with a desire to win, with a confidence to win, and kind of wanting to shock the world and show people that Utah isn't just a team that's going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be tough to beat. They're going to be tough to deal with, and eventually they are going to enter into a championship window. So yeah, we'll see how things go, but it's going to be a lot of fun. There's nothing at all like playoff hockey, and I think that this team is well suited, and I think they've got the right leadership in place to make things interesting and to make some noise here in the next week.
Cole, we're looking forward to these playoffs, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you again.
All right, thanks, boys.
There you go.
Thanks, Cole.
Cole Bagley. We have more around the corner. 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone.
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5 VKSL Sports Zone. That music, of course, means the NFL Blitz is upon us. Oh, yeah, the league never sleeps. The best league in the world never sleeps. You can join Scotty G live on Wednesday, noon to 3 at Bar W Beef. It's a pop-up event. It's going on at the Cal Ranch store in Spanish Fork on 950 Main Street. I have been to that Cal Ranch so many dang times. I can picture it. And I can picture you going in there and checking it out. Bar W Beef, a pop-up event at the Cal Ranch store in Spanish Fork. Go check it out. You're like, I'm not going all the way down to Nephi. You will go to Spanish Fork, though. Check it out for yourself. Give it a taste, and you're going to get hooked. All right. Multiple sources saying that the 18-game NFL season is basically just, it's going to happen. And I'm mixed on it because we talk about player safety, we talk about player careers, and when they add games, we're talking about taking away games in other leagues. Like, why are we playing 162 in baseball still? We already got there, and now our TV contracts have that in it. Why are we playing 82 and nobody plays in the 82 in the NBA? I don't know. The NHL is awesome because nobody's going, take away some games, eh? No, absolutely not. You know why? Because those guys bust their tail. The NFL's adding a game. Is that wise, JJ?
Well, you already added the 17th, so I guess you might as well make it even.
And
it's always annoying to say.
How long
a team
have they
finished 9-8 this year. It just really doesn't make a lot of sense.
How long has the 17-game season been going? It feels like they're going to add an 18th game 3 years after. I know it's been longer, probably 8 or 9 seasons now. No, not that long. 5?
No, 2021. It's only been
5
years.
years. Yeah. I just assumed it was going to be one of those things
and
where
looking at adding another one now. It was inevitable. I mean, when the commissioner's talking about it almost immediately after adding the 17th, you can't jump from 16 to 18. Although they initially jumped from 14 to 16.
Yeah. The thing is when they roll this out in the next collective bargaining agreement, the players want to get paid, and they're going to get paid an extra paycheck. It's going to be bigger money. It's always going to be bigger money.
And that's what motivates everything that the league does.
And you know what else is going to happen with that 18th game? You know why Roger Goodell loves this 18th game? More freaking games overseas.
Yep.
I'm telling you.
It's easy to add more games in London and Berlin.
I know, he's all. Cape Town going to be hosting their very first NFL game. You're like, were people asking for it? Some of these places, I'm like, are people asking for it? The NFL's all, we don't care. We're just going to take over. So there you go. The 18th game coming down the pike. The Colts have agreed to seek a new team for their cornerback, Kenny Moore II, who made it pretty clear he didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, we'll facilitate a trade. You're crazy. No, I mean, look, these teams are like,
whatever you need, man.
Yeah.
And we wish you the best, but also this is the best for us too. You know what I mean? So, let me see here. Oh, Drake May. Drake May did a by the way, Drake May's been on like a public tour, I feel like. He's going around to like every game possible and he's on every Jumbotron with his wife. I think they've been married for a minute, right?
Yeah, I think so. They were like high school sweethearts, right?
Yeah.
Even like maybe junior high.
Certainly, he certainly got Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson beat on the length of. Are they married yet? Did she get him?
Who?
Jordan Hudson?
No.
Bill Belichick?
She
No.
still has not been able to lock that down.
I just can't.
She hasn't been able to get him to put a ring on it.
I can't not picture Bill Belichick with his shirt off on the front porch in Southie, like in South Boston, coming out of that porch, and you're like, I don't think this is AI, you guys. I think this is the real guy. Oh, my goodness. Would you draft Jeremiah Love, not just as a top 5 pick? I've seen arguments for Jeremiah Love going first overall.
Whoa.
That's pretty insane considering the plight of the running back in 2026 in the NFL, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the talent is there. Obviously, the Raiders aren't looking for a running back one, but he is good. I think he's better than all but one of the quarterbacks in this draft as far as who you should take. Is he top 5? I think you could definitely make a case to take him top 5, but there's also a lot of great defensive talent in this draft.
Right.
There's some great offensive tackles in this draft. So the truth is running backs, special running backs even, can be found late in the first round, in second or third rounds even. So you look around the league, and there's not a lot of guys that are at the top of the league when it comes to running backs that were number 1 overall picks or 2 or even 3. So
Yeah.
I understand, like we talked about the Titans taking him. That makes a lot of sense because you got Cam Ward. You have a lot of pieces there. Add a star running back. That would make a lot of sense. The Cardinals could use him. I mean, there's a lot of teams in that top. The Giants, obviously, I don't know if they would be interested. Probably not because they've got their guy already there. But he's a big talent. A number 1 overall running back. I mean, I'd have to Google and find out when the last time a number 1 pick overall was a running back.
Tony Dorsett, maybe?
You're going way back.
No, I think, I mean, even like the insane body that, and everybody knew he was going to be good, Derrick Henry, when he came out of Alabama. You knew how dominant he was going to be, and he was a Heisman Trophy winner, all that stuff.
I need to confirm this, but Keyjana Carter in 1995?
Wow. And that's the name, too?
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was, how long was he even in the league? 4 years?
It didn't last long, no.
So it's probably like, was Emmitt Smith the number 1 overall guy?
No, not at all.
Jeez.
No, not even close, actually.
Yeah, they don't pick. I mean, look, it's quarterbacks. It's a quarterback league, man. It's a quarterback league.
There's
you
no
know
doubt.
how it is.
Quarterback, pass rusher, lockdown corners. I mean, offense, left tackles can go number 1 sometimes. But, it's Emmitt Smith was, where was he drafted?
90. No.
17th overall in the 90 draft. Correct.
17th?
17th overall.
Worked out.
Turned out to be the all-time leading rusher in NFL history.
Yeah, people dog him for it too, but they're like, you're not the best. The best retired after 10 years, and you're like, oh, I know, but Emmitt Smith still freaking...
Just because you don't look like a video game doesn't mean you weren't the best. I mean,
Dude,
Walter Payton didn't look like a video game.
We were living in Dallas during his heyday.
Yeah.
He was as automatic as it got for 121 yards on 28 rushes.
Right.
And 2 touchdowns.
He was consistently good.
That was that freaking guy's day all day.
He did have an incredible offensive line.
He did.
There's no doubt about that.
Nate Newton might have actually been faster than Larry Allen for sure was.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We'll take a break. We've got more to go around the corner. We've got a best and worst for you. 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
Yeah, Mammoth updates brought to you by BMW. Now, did you get yours that they were sending out to all of us?
Still waiting.
You guys didn't get your BMW?
Still waiting.
All right.
Hope it comes in the mail with one of those big bows they have on those ads.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a Lexus move. What? I got 3% APR. I love that SNL skit. Honey, did you think you really was only $4,000? I only paid $3,000 at signing. Do you really think that car's worth $3,000? All right. Guess what? Best and worst to wrap up this hour. Guess what? You're gonna see some improvements up at Utah State. There are a couple things. Didn't they just get did Coach Jacobson hire himself an assistant too?
He did. Barrett Perry, who's a very familiar name to people in the state who know about college basketball. A longtime assistant, was once a head coach at Portland State. He's been a part of several staffs in state.
So
he's back in Utah after a stint at UNLV.
So
great recruiter.
The Spectrum, by the way, the Spec is going to get some changes. They announced.
They're not very popular with fans, I'll tell you that.
Okay. I was wondering. So they put this stuff out that says it's going to improve the experience, which when they roll that out, I always wonder. I think, so does that mean the students are going to take a hit a little bit?
Always.
Okay. So what are the changes that are supposed to be good? The Herd has established itself as one of the premier student sections in all of college athletics. You don't need 4 paragraphs, by the way, to explain the change you're making, right?
Yeah.
So what's the long and short of it here? Oh, so they're going to have additional season ticket and premium opportunities. Oh, boy. That's pushing some people out to make room for the big wigs.
Yeah, the Aggie student section is going to go completely behind the basket.
Hey, look. That's still effective, but you're right. It's never fun. You remember, I can't remember what year it was, but when BYU goes, hey, media guys who are right here, when they moved the media up to like the second level of the Marriott Center, and we were like, oh, this is different. I wonder what they're doing. And it was like, oh, yeah. They get way more money out of people sitting right there. The people who want to sit right there are going to pay for it, not these free media guys who are eating a free meal before the event. So this is the way that all big-time programs are going. And guess what? Utah State is a big-time program now. They're going to the Pac-12, brother.
They are. So you got to step up with the money. The only way this happens is the money, and there are certain things that often have to fall to the wayside when that happens. And at least they're keeping the Herd together. That's been the thing I've been hearing from people. Well, at least they're keeping the Herd together. But there's obviously a lot of people that aren't happy about it.
Do what BYU does. Just start handing out ice cream just to assuage everybody's fears. Hey, I know you can't afford the season tickets anymore, but the one game you're going to come to, hey, eat this ice cream. It'll soothe your pains.
It works for visiting fans when they give them their ice cream while they're kicking their butt.
I always love that.
Come begin soon.
Did you have the mint brownie? It's like toothpaste on a brownie.
Good. Well, it's fun to watch us beat you 49-7.
I did go over and see one of my friends who's from
Drive home safe.
One of my friend's kid plays for Stanford, and I went over and visited him during the thing, and he was like, "Yeah, they're awesome. They've been really cool. They've been bringing all this stuff around to us." He's like, "Look, you don't have to give us gifts. We know we stink. We knew it was going to happen before this game. We just happen to be able to see our kid play in front of us." All right, and then the worst. We have time for the worst. We're losing hockey history. Yes.
Yeah.
We knew that this was probably coming, but it looks like the Grizzlies played their last game, of course, on Sunday afternoon at the Maverick Center. I will say that's where all of us had our first Utah hockey experiences, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was in college, and I went to a Grizzlies game, and I was picked to go on the ice for like a intermission thing to try to shoot a puck from center ice, and if you made it in the goal, not like the tiny one, but it's just the whole goal, you got a bag of groceries from Albertsons.
Wow.
Or from Smith's or something. I think it was back when Albertsons still existed. And that was huge. I mean, I was like, my roommates and I were ecstatic. And I just love the attitude. People have those season tickets. There have been people who had those season tickets for years. So I know we love having the Mammoth here, but a lot of people are going to be sad the Grizzlies go away.
Yeah, it was inevitable, but it does close a chapter in Utah hockey history. And for people that can't afford to go to Mammoth games, that was their way to see pro hockey in an affordable way, and it's gone now. And so for a lot of fans here in Utah, it is a sad day.
Yeah.
But obviously we see that the need for the Grizzlies to go where they're going and where we are now with the NHL. So
there you go. They're off to Trenton. New Jersey could not have picked a further away place, I feel like. But there you go. That's how it works. We'll take a break. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.